Hi everybody, back again. There is a ton of videos on my channel going back over 4 years or so of tips about how to grow consciously, spiritually, become a better version of yourself, exercises you can do, inspirational little points of view, changing your perspective so you can just see things differently. So just go back through my channel and just find videos. There's so many of them, right? So take advantage of that. Today's video is something I love to talk about actually, and probably have done so before. And it's about heaven on earth while living in this body. Because it's almost like we feel, well, the word heaven, right? Let's start there. The word heaven. Where is that? And most people will go, there somewhere. And most people, if you don't point to the sky, will definitely believe that heaven is a place you go to when you die. Or you go to the pearly gates and maybe you go to heaven and maybe you don't. You know, that kind of story. And maybe it's true, I don't know. But what I do know is that when all the great sages and saints have talked about anything to do with their spiritual connection, their knowledge of God, their life, their divine true nature, their ability to recognize the greatness of who we are, who you are, and to live that divinity now, to live that greatness now, they've always referred to this being heaven. Not somewhere in the future, not some place in the sky, not some other location, but it's actually a living experience in life now. And you know what that means? It's really good news because it means it's a state of consciousness. What is a state of consciousness? Here we go. How far down the rabbit hole do I want to take you? A state of consciousness could be when you're asleep. That's a measurable state of consciousness. We're measuring your alertness and your body function. So if your body's at rest, at deep rest, but your attention is alert or not alert, in this case would be not alert, then that's measurable and that would class you as being asleep. Then there's the dream state, that state of consciousness, which means that even though your body's still resting, it's not as rested as sleep. You know, we've got REM, we're tossing and turning a bit. And even mentally, we're more active. So that's a measurable state of consciousness. And then we wake up and we start moving. So our rest, our measurable relationship to our body, our rest state is active, and our mental state is very active. And we measure that, and we can say that most humans are actually thinking over 90,000 thoughts a day, possibly 120,000 thoughts a day. And, you know, many universities are even upping that number. But let's just start at 120,000 thoughts a day. That's a lot. There's very little spare time that we're not thinking. So one of the greatest addictions is actually to thinking. You know, we're just thinking, and we believe it's normal. It's not, right? And that's called the waking state. Waking state of consciousness is when we are awake. But are we awake to God? Are we awake to this moment? No, we're not. We're in the 120,000 thoughts a day. So we're very busy believing our mind and listening to those thoughts. And that's the filter that then we see our life through, right? Is what we think about. Those very quick judgment thoughts. The next state of consciousness, or the fourth one, is actually when we transcend thinking. So we can still be active. So meditation is actually, even meditations can be measured as activity in the body still, even if you're sitting quietly, because of the healing that happens in the body through being present. But the mental chatter has ceased, or you've transcended it because you're being present. So the fourth state of consciousness is actually alertness, alert to now, alert to being present now, and then seeing what the thoughts are and not following them, not taking a thought and creating thinking. A thought is simply a thought. Thinking is when we put them all together and create stories and go off on the daydream, right? So the thoughts in themselves come and go, like who cares? But the thinking, that's when we're involved. We're completely attached to now the thought and creating a story, and then we're now caught up in it, and usually emotionally caught up in it too. So there's different states of consciousness. So to recognize this fourth state of consciousness means you play with actively to be present, and you recognize you're not thinking. And so however that works for you, in many meditations, there's different tools that they use to enhance that, or to create that, or to retrain us, really, because it's actually natural. When you actually are doing it, you realize how natural it is. But from the waking state with 120,000 thoughts, when you believe that to be natural, all that chatter, to then become present, it feels tough. It feels hard sometimes to do it, to let go of the habit of thinking. But when you do that, you realize it's normal to be present. And this state, this transcendent state of being present here now, is actually glorious, because in its simplicity, because it's in all that thinking that we have the judgments and the worry and the depressions and the self-defeating thoughts aimed at ourselves, aimed at everyone else, all that kind of stuff. And then suddenly when you don't do that, you don't listen to that, then suddenly it's normal to be present. And then there's a fifth state of consciousness. Like, it just grows from that platform of being present. Once you are aware and you can play with being aware, and that becomes more natural for you, well, then that starts to grow. That naturally moves into this ongoing experience, which isn't just me and my peace in this moment, me being alert. It becomes this connectedness and alertness and beauty in everything. So what starts off as being internal, like my experience, becomes very external as well, like the connectedness in the whole world, simply by being present. It's pretty amazing. And so that's where heaven on earth is a living, real experience that all the saints and sages talk about. It's no location and it's in no time frame, except that you live it now once you've transcended the mind. So you could actually say then that if all the suffering is actually in that mind-created space, the waking state, all the thinking and the judgment, if you could say that that's where all the suffering is, when you talk about, heaven and hell, you could basically say we live in hell when we're in the thinking. When we're consumed by these thoughts, then we've created our own hell. That's one way of looking at it. And then when we transcend the thinking, or don't put any attention to it, but recognize being present, you could say that then we're living in heaven, because you recognize that this is the gloriousness of being now. You're freed from all those stupid opinions and judgments. I guess that's an opinion too, right? You realize how stupid they are, how silly they are when you transcend them. You go, really? I listened to that all my life? Like, why? And then when you realize that this transcendent state is actually so peaceful and loving and perfect and connected with the divine, then you realize, well, that's probably what they're talking about when they describe heaven. So when people talk about heaven on earth, it's not like we're trying to create this golden earth, without pollution and without mining and without, I don't know, deserts and salt problems and stuff like that. Heaven on earth is actually recognizing being present now, and then you naturally recognize the beauty that is in this moment. Naturally, you are living it. So, you want to know more? Keep following my videos or learn my style of meditation. Learn any meditation, but my style is really amazing and easy. And heaven on earth is ready for you.